Let's talk about apocalypse and being an apocalyptic agent. Let that sit for a bit. Because as usual, the whole idea of apocalypse has been inverted, perverted, distorted, corrupted for reasons of mind control and the control and manipulation and coercion of the ignorant and the foolish and the uneducated and ill-informed. And it goes back centuries, of course. I had a discourse with GPT about this earlier today and wanted to speak about it. Inspired actually by another video by Matt over at the Quantum of Conscience, which I'll link below. And the idea of this existential, or what he called blissful dread, that we tend to, go into and come out of in our process of studying the real and true things and getting to see what's, as we come to know what's behind the veil, as we come to know the nature of this reality, it can kind of knock us on our butts on occasion, right? Because we can see it for what it is. We can see the false, the fake, the fabricated, all these stories and narratives and how our reality is presented. The presentation, the representation is of a fictive nature. It's all just an elaborate game, and we can certainly get lost in it. And we can certainly, of course, when we see how all these things are kind of put together and the nature of it, and when we see behind the veil, when we go through our own apocalypse, our own revealing, our own unveiling, our own process of disclosure in the journey of seeking the truth, of discerning the truth, of seeing through lies and distortions and narratives, it can have a deleterious effect. It can knock us on our butts. It can be depressing, certainly, until we, come out the other side, of that same realization that we are manifesting and manufacturing our own weighted heaviness and dark perspective, shadowy perspective of it, and forgetting that we volunteered, forgetting that we chose, forgetting that there are no victims here for a time. It's a natural part of the process, part of that oscillation and the up and the down of pretty much anything in life. But those of us who are perhaps sensitive to these things, or simply just aware, when you become aware, it can at times have you feeling quite pessimistic and cynical, and it will arm the skeptical aspects of your personality. It will infuse the critical thinker, the discerner, the conspiracy researcher, the truth seeker. That apocalyptic agency within you is all about the remembering and returning to what's real and true. And on occasion, it inflames that emotionality and charges up the negative polarity of that which is within us, that always has that positive side as well. But the world, the weight, the anxiety, the stories, the nature of the impositions and attacks and the spiritual warfare that happens can get to anyone. Doesn't matter what level of education, information, and understanding that you are at, because you're human, you're fallible, you're prone to these energies and subject to the rules and conditions of this created reality. And when we forget, when we slip away from that center, when we slide into the heaviness and the weight of the darkness or the evil perspective, we can temporarily lose our way or feel completely hopeless and entertain far darker thoughts and suicidal ideations and the such, simply because we feel so momentarily disempowered and dissociated with the real and true and the immortal within. And that's useful information too. That's useful data, because it all helps us to reignite that spark, to recalibrate, to refine our process, to remind ourselves again that it's all quite temporary and transient, and that we're not going to be here for very long in this particular expression, and that we should try and maximize what we get out of it and reconnect with why we came here again and why we chose to experience and express life in this particular way at this particular time in this era. The first and most important thing, of course, is to realize that if you are resonating with my material or with what offerings such as Matt puts out there and others in this type of truth-seeking and revelatory community, the researchers and analysts, those who pick apart the narratives and see through the veil. It's a small community, but if you resonate and if these things pique your interest or encourage you to want to seek further, then you are also, part of that crowd. You are an apocalyptic agent, as it were. And of course, we have to define and redefine the word, the idea, because there's been such a spell cast on society about the idea of apocalypse and the end times and, even the idea of revelation. All these things have been completely distorted and twisted around, inverted and corrupted, primarily through, the religious institutions of old that still persist to this day. And now today we have the other priests and the like of Silicon Valley and of Hollywood and of cartel medicine, right? All these new priests in different colored robes and such that utilize the technology and technocracy and corporation, consumerism, capitalism to maintain this veil, this shadow, this idea, this delusion of perpetual worry and fear and anxiety, that you should be not only afraid of everything that could come at you in this life, afraid of the frailty and the weakness and all these things and the potential disease and sickness that can befall your poor, weak human body and that kind of bullshit. But then be also afraid of what comes after, and that you need to prepare, and that you need to be saved, and all this complete horseshit regarding your soul and your spirit, and that which is completely and utterly at all times immortal, safe, beyond any harm whatsoever. And you have these people that right now, as Matt was alluding to in his talk, even the first 20 minutes he covers basically what the point of his whole talk was about, that blissful dread that he got to. What inspired him to talk about it was these people, these truthers that get sidetracked and derailed and misled into ideas of soul trap and the trick of being reintroduced into this apparent, prison planet and all that complete crap. It's just more distortions, more people being led astray by would-be truthers and by the agents of chaos and confusion. It's the same people that install their little minions throughout the truth community to, again, take the fools where they probably on some way wanted to go before this lifetime, where they wanted to explore these things, where they wanted to explore ignorance and blindness and being oblivious and being a fool, being led by the nose to all these completely false narratives, to feel disempowered, to feel smaller, to feel lost and disconnected, and to feel that fear in a genuine way. But then you get to the point, well, now I see it for what it is. Now I know the truth. It's all a soul trap. It's all a trick. Fuck that, man. We're going to resist. And I don't want to ever come back again. And I don't want on and on and on. As if you've discovered something truthful, which you haven't. You've just been lied to in a different variation that appeased your need, that pushed those buttons, that pulled those threads to confuse and to pull you off track again. Because there is no soul trap. It is not a prison planet. It's a school of sorts. It's a game. It's a simulacrum. It's a way to explore and experience and experiment. It's a way to be, physical for a short time, maybe many times, perhaps thousands of times, but nobody forced you to come here. Nobody tricked you into coming here. That's ridiculous. Because again, remember who and what you really are. Remember that part of you that is immortal, and tap into it on occasion to awaken, to remind yourself that no real harm can come to the essence of what you are, which should help you reframe and dispel these casts and these ideas of apocalypse being end times, and when it's actually the opposite. It's the revealing, it's disclosure, it's the clarifying, it's the seeing behind the veil. It's right, all of these ideas of getting to know the true nature of reality and the true nature of this life and this place that we exist within for a short time. But on this journey, on this sojourn toward what is real and true, what is authentic, we have to go through these processes. We're going to oscillate through these fields of information and ideas, such as the soul trap and the trick and the prison planet, such as, on a more base level, we're going to discern and discover the lies of all these things that they're terrifying us with through these agendas and programs and, the Hollywood mindfuck machine and these ritualistic things that the cultish type people and the powerful elites thrust upon society and confuse the zeitgeist and infuse it with ideas and distortions, such as, you look at all the films, the zombie films, the outbreak films, the vampires, the Terminator films, the robot and artificial intelligence taking over the world, all these complete bullshit narratives that get pounded into us generation after generation, and then ultimately they culminate in these events like the 9/11s, like the COVID, like whatever you want to call it, all these fake false flag psychological operations that everything that led up to it in the years before, the years and the decades, if you were to analyze and examine the inputs and the ideas, the prevalent stories, the big blockbuster films, the best-selling novels, whatever it is, you'll be able to tie all these things together in short order to realize just how everything was predictively programmed into you, conditioned into you well before the fact, well before these events happened, with which they just, drill it home because the field was pregnant with it. The information field, the energetic field was already pregnant with that potentiality, so that when it did come about, it would be that much more effective. So remind yourself that this is always ongoing. Remind yourself, everything that you're seeing now in the headlines, all these dastardly, dangerous, high energy, high conflict and contrast, ongoing conflicts around the world and agendas that are playing out in your backyard and across the realm. It's all playing into some sort of, it's building up towards something. It's accumulating this kind of knowledge, this idea, this information, these distortions within you, within your field, that you must dispel for yourself. Otherwise, when the next whatever comes along, when the next false flag and hoax or fraud comes upon us, you'll be quite susceptible to it, as most people in the general population always are. And that's their choice, right? What's your choice? What are you going to choose for yourself? Are you going to prepare and be continually, dispelling these ideas and energies, or are you going to just let it build up and build up and build up to the point where either you have your own kind of dark nights of the soul and get lost and get beaten up and fall off the track and feel completely disempowered for a time, or allow that external reality, that outside in sort of pressure come to a point, and when they do unleash these false flag and fake manufactured crises and events upon us, that you're going to fall for the traps again or be affected more than you should be by these eventualities and fabrications. What's your choice? As ever, begin with learning the definitions of these things, the actual meanings of these words, and reclaim that agency, that authority, that authorship. Reclaim that creative spark, reclaim that better knowing from within. To do that, you need to dispel all this spell casting, primarily done through language, primarily done through these predictive programming algorithms and ideas and scripts and things that play out in the media and our entertainment and all the inputs that we subject ourselves to if we're not aware and conscious of their effect on us. And remind yourself, remember that subconscious doesn't miss a thing. When you're walking through town, when you're scrolling through social media, whatever it might be, wherever you're getting your inputs from, your subconscious doesn't miss a thing. And you won't notice, the 10, 15, 20, 30 times that certain ads, certain ideas are coming across your feed. You won't notice that. But some part of you is certainly tracking it, is certainly aware of it, is certainly accumulating these ideas, pushing you toward one belief or another, toward one paradigm or another, reinstilling or reaffirming one distorted belief or another. And one of the biggest and most prevalent ideas is this idea of apocalypse or end times, and this eschatology that's been completely co-opted by the psychopaths, parasites, and predators, right? As usual, it's been weaponized and inverted and used quite effectively for generations, centuries, maybe millennia, to control the hearts and minds of the foolish and the ignorant and the uneducated. And I don't think that you, if you're watching this, would be considered one of those, because you're aware, at least to some degree, and you wouldn't be watching this because it wouldn't resonate, wouldn't come into your field, wouldn't come across your radar if you weren't in some way, in some form, seeking that own apocalypse for yourself, that revelation, that clarifying, that unveiling, disclosure, what have you. So remind yourself, read the discussion, read the chat, get some ideas, see how all these different things play out, and discern what is real and true about this idea of apocalyptic agency, so that you can remind yourself why you're here and why you're inspired to pursue this avenue of seeking what is real and true and reaffirming to yourself what life is all about, why you're here and why you're going through the motions and why you're even bothering, why you chose to experience life in such a way at this time. And remind yourself, reignite that flame, It's always there. It's always waiting. It's always asking for you to listen to that still small voice, to reconnect with, realign with your better knowing self, your eternal, immortal self. So to dispel these ideas and to cast off these weights and anxieties and lies and distortions of the predictive programming and other conditions and rules put forth by the machines and the machine minds and these parasitic sort of ideas that proliferate through our society. Take it back. Take it all back. You are an apocalyptic agent. It's a good thing. Have a good one.
It's been coming down every other day, but they tell me we are in drought season. That's not my story, not my reality. No matter what you force my eyes to see, and the sky is falling right on top of me, but they tell me it's for the greater good that